That's right, Captains. I'm back. This is the USS Endeavor, and we've got the blacked out Montana, the legendary United States of America battleship. And we've got 12 16-inch guns. This one's going to be a little bit different. I'm not going to show the commander the build. At this point, you already know what it is. If you don't know, look at my past videos because we got back-to-back games. So strap yourselves in, Captains. This is the end of the line for the U.S. battleships for this particular line. So get your snacks, grab a drink, sit down, relax, and enjoy these last two clips before we hang this one up. It's been a fun ride, but eventually all good things must come to an end. So let's go out with a bang. All right, Captains, the first video is going to be taking place on the Atlantic. And in both of these videos, I'm by myself. I'm playing solo in the Montana, and I'm not going to lie to you, gentlemen and ladies. This video took me quite a while to find just the right clip or right set of circumstances. It was either a blowout victory that wasn't entertaining, or it was me getting blapped by torpedoes right off the bat because nobody would push. There were just so many factors and things that just didn't quite pan out. And although I didn't want to just do one video, if it would have been good like the main, I probably would have. But this one's not going to feature high calibers or any fantastical medals. I wanted to show just a game in which we play well, but one that is kind of more realistic. The main, I gotta be honest, that video, if you saw it, that was a unicorn game that I don't think I'll even repeat anytime soon. And I didn't want to have an over-the-top, unrealistic game. I wanted to have something that really showed the strengths of this ship, which in my opinion is quite situational. And so right off the bat, we're going to talk about this particular video, getting right into the gameplay. We don't face any carriers in either one. In fact, I don't think I faced a single carrier in like the 20 games that I played trying to find a decent video. But it's got good AA, so that's something that you can rely on in this thing. But it is a behemoth. It's very long. It's a little bit longer than the Iowa because it has to make room for that extra turret in the back. 12 16-inch guns. It's think main, but two extra guns on two turrets. So 6 in the front, 6 in the back. And as we push in here, we are supporting the Smalland, who is going right into Alpha Cap, so much appreciated. I'm getting some spotting. But as you're going to see here relatively soon, we're going to start getting pretty overwhelmed. And it's just me right now and this Smalland. So I'm very appreciative of his spotting, because without it, I don't think I would have done nearly as well over here. And he's going to support me really good. I'm going to try and repay the favor. So I was waiting for this particular scenario to pop up. The Worcester probably threw his radar to spot the Smalland because he just got spotted and we're trying to cap. However, the Smalland is not able to do it, but we get a nasty hit on that Worcester, taking nearly 30,000 of his health points and claiming it for our own. The Smalland is a radar Smalland, which is really interesting. So he's using that to spot the destroyer right now, but I don't have shots on him that I really want to take just this second. I'm trying to figure out how am I going to angle against this Yamato, and there's a Republic out there along with this Sumner that I got to keep tabs on. He's got long range torpedoes, just like the Gearing does. And we also have to keep in mind that Worcester, if he gets behind the island, is going to start spamming us with HE. Speaking of spamming with HE, the new Tulsa from the last update, somebody's in that over here. So we've got 5 ships on Alpha to R2. And here I'm just praying and hoping that the Smalland doesn't die to the torpedoes of the Sumner, which he doesn't. He is still capping this cap, which is awesome. Facing these types of odds and he's still going for the objective is very much appreciated. As we see torps coming in from the left-hand side, I can only assume, I'm not exactly sure whose torpedoes those were, but we dodged those relatively easily. I believe there was a gearing mid in Bravo, so that's probably where those torpedoes came from. Again, very long-range torpedoes, but easily dodged. Now we have to make sure that whenever this Smallland spots these cruisers, that we're able to make them pay. He was able to get the cap. However, now he's going to be facing too many foes. They're going to start overwhelming him, and he's not going to be able to stay. Plus, I'm already spotted, and the Tulsa and the Worcester are starting to open up on me. So it's getting literally a little too hot over here. The shot that we take on the Tulsa, he turns in, but not before we whack him for a pretty decent hit. We're double fired, so we decide to put that out. We are running the concealment mod, which is going to help us drop spot a little bit easier. But I need to take this Republic out because he's spotting us currently, and it looks like a torpedo or two is going to hit the Republic. So we take a shot out, and we are about to waste him right here for our first kill, which also gives us our first yellow stack to our damage. And we hit it crude enough to already have our first purple stack a little bit ago when we took that chunk of damage off the Tulsa. So now that's one less battleship to deal with. However, we still have the Tulsa, the Worcester, the Yamato, which I'm trying to not go fully broadside against because I'm still spotted and he can reach out even at this range and put a hurting on us if he decides to shoot at us. However, he doesn't, which is very favorable. But now this Worcester and the Tulsa are the biggest threats to our destroyer, who is still sticking around. And I just wanted to give a shout out to that Smallland who had really sacrificed to try and help me out to help him out. The gearing is really low on life support, so we take a shot at him. It's a bit of a blind shot as we don't know where he's exactly oriented, and we only get one hit. However, the Smallland takes him out, but sacrifices a little bit of hit points and exposes himself to the Worcester and the Tulsa. And now our Smallland is on life support. However, as you can see right off my nose just about, this A gear has decided to come into the fray and give us a hand, so that's much appreciated, as we were pretty much overwhelmed on this side, which begs the question, how are we down on the far other side of the map when half the team was practically, over half the team was over on our side? Begs the question, I don't know. But we're holding this side even though we have technically lost the cap. We are not ready to give it up, even though our destroyer does end up suffering the fate against these guys and goes down. Don't worry, buddy. We are going to avenge you. So this A gear, I need his help, and I am going to be pushing in. Now that the destroyer threat is no longer over here, it's just these two cruisers. But they have fast-firing HE shells, but we are still really healthy. And the Tulsa now finally popping up. We are going to take a shot at him, reminding him that these 16-inch shells, they still hurt you when you're bowing. And we get a pretty decent hit on him right there, taking out a turret and chunking his superstructure. But don't quite finish him off. He goes dark because of the smoke. But we're going to go ahead and push in because there's no fear of torpedoes from these guys. So that's what the play is. We got to get in here, take them out, and retake Alpha Cap because as you can see on the score, we're down, and we only have one cap to their two. So this is a vital play. We got to get in here. However, I'm not the fastest thing in the world. And I slowed down because I wasn't sure if there were any more torpedoes that were potentially coming in from this side. And I didn't realize that there might be a torpedo threat over here, but unfortunately there is. as we take out the Tulsa with a really good salvo with just our front guns. Now the Worcester is pretty screwed because we've got the Daring on our team that, although he is low, is able to give us information. So we are going to start pushing around this corner rather aggressively, because now that we actually have the ship advantage, now we need the cap advantage. Taking out the Worcester will give us an even further ship advantage whilst being able to take over this cap. And the A gear is right next to me, even though you can't see him. He's a little bit off screen, so he's going to be coming in to help me. And just as we're about to push in, that's when I notice that there are torpedoes coming in, as the ship count has now evened up. And there are those torpedoes. So thankfully we are able to dodge them rather well. Not quite sure where those came from, but that kind of freaked me out a little bit, because it definitely wasn't from the Worcester. And now we are up 4 ships to 3. And although the score is we're slightly down, it feels like we're in the lead here as the Sumner pops up. The Gearing had decided to make his trek all the way from mid to over here when we were able to take him out, and the torpedoes came from the Sumner. So now that he is dead, now it's just a Shimakaze and this Worcester against us 3 on this side, plus another battleship that's on the far side of the map. And now we are taking over Alpha Cap. So right now, this is all looking pretty favorable, especially since the Worcester decides to come out, making a fatal error, and we take him off the board, leaving it as a 4v1. And just as we're able to clear him, unfortunately, our Yamato, which is on the far side of the map, goes down to the remaining Shimakaze. So it's now a 1v3 with all of us on Alpha and the Shimakaze likely being over at Charlie. So I ping Bravo, explaining that the winning play is to make sure that they don't take Bravo Cap. And they, in this instance, is the remaining Shimakaze. So, unfortunately, I am the lead ship, which is not really ideal. I'm not set up for this type of engagement, although I do have my shells switched to HE. But, as you can see, I'm located, even though I'm technically not spotted. But the Shimakaze is going to have no problem whatsoever outspotting me, as you can see right here. So if I continue on this line in pursuit, I know for a fact that I'm going to get torpedoed, even though I'm really healthy. Shimakaze torpedoes, if you don't dodge them correctly, is pretty much game over for me. So I understand that I am not the best equipped to take on this Shimakaze in this condition. I have to rely on our Daring and the A gear. Unfortunately, our Daring, who has played an excellent game up to this point, is pretty much down to nothing on hit point wise. Our A gear is very healthy, and right there on the chat he told me to get back, which is a wise move. It makes me rely on the A gear. Here I'm just trying to take a blind shot because I have no idea where the Shimakaze is. But this Shimakaze player did a really good job of putting the torpedoes on different lines. Here I thought I was going to get a flood, but RNG gives me a good roll, so I don't have to use my damage con just yet. I'm waiting for that third set, which is right there. And these look really good, and it looks like I'm going to take one at least. But they run out right at the last second. So that was a favorable move, and my turrets unfortunately are nowhere in position to be able to take a shot at the Shimakaze, and although the Daring did his best there to whittle him down, he unfortunately goes down to the Shimakaze, giving him the Kraken. Now I want you to pay attention to the score here because they now have the lead. This Shimakaze player, if he's making the right call, which he unfortunately will, he just needs to survive. However, if we flip the cap with the amount of time that is remaining, the points are so close that we could, if the A gear flips this cap, he's making the right move by being in there. However, I don't know if he has any more utility this late in the game. He may not, but we need to secure this cap first and foremost. And if we can't secure the cap, we have to kill the Shimakaze. There just is no other recourse. We have no choice. So this is where we make, as a team, a fatal mistake. Although we're playing it correctly up to this point, the A gear, as soon as he captures this, decides to leave. And I want you to watch the score very closely. We're less than a minute away, and our score is going to eventually get close enough to take over right there. However, right as we take over, the Shimakaze wisely gets back into the cap, and if you look at the score, we're accruing only one set of points from Alpha. He's accruing one from Charlie. We're accruing none from Bravo because he's on it, meaning he only needs to survive and not get spotted. And if the A gear had actually pushed in to the Shimakaze, we would have won, I think, because we could have spotted him, but he goes off the cap, negating the ability to spot the Shimakaze, giving him not only the win, but a solo warrior. Which was just salt in the wound, as we did pretty dang good in our battleship, accruing over 1,800 base XP and a loss. And I'm not criticizing the A gear, it just was the wrong move. But, captains, as you know, we can't go out with a loss. No, sir. So a little bit of a spoiler, this is going to be a win. But how we win is a little bit nail-biting. And we end up having to go to... I don't want to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil it. So here we go. We are on the map Shatter. It is a domination game mode. And we spawn on the far left side closest to Alpha. One thing I want to point out is that right before the match starts, as the game timer is ticking down while you are in game waiting, you can hold left or right on the thumbstick that controls the rudder. And if you hold that while the clock is ticking down to game start, you can preload the direction that you would like to go right off the bat without having to start from a neutral position. It's a little bit of a trick that I didn't realize was actually effective, but it really helps when it comes to playing battleships, as their rudder shift times very slow, and if you already know which way you want to travel, it's just a good trick that you can use to go ahead and plan your turns, getting you towards the direction you want to go a little bit faster. Another reason why I like the concealment mod is because I can bring my concealment down low enough to be able to make these turns without getting initially spotted right off the bat. Now, it doesn't always work, and it depends on where you spawn and on what map you're playing, because some spawns are closer to the ships than others. But in this particular instance, we are able to make this turn, and no one knows that we're coming out here. As the Pommern pops up, he is at max range, but he is flat broadside, so we are going to take a shot, and that grouping and dispersion looks spicy. And this could be a really good chunk. And it lands, and we knock out a gun and do just over 16,000 damage. So not bad. However, what you didn't see is there were also shells coming in, and they also hit the Pommern. I didn't know it at the time, but the Pommern got absolutely devastated right off the get-go. And you're going to see him pop around the corner here eventually. But I'm thankful that our destroyer is heading in to Alpha to take it, which is great because I can't do that. And if there's one thing that I learned playing this entire line, it's that patience will win the day. And good positioning will also win the day. I just hate that kind of play style because it's not something that I'm used to. I like to be able to dictate the flow. I like to be able to get to positions and alter the course of the battle in a different narrative by using utility to support the team and myself, rather than being in a battleship where I kind of hang back and wait for things to pop up. But unfortunately, that's just kind of how it works with this. As you can see, the Pommern is less than half health, and we did not do that to him. We only took 16,000. However, it looks like he might be stuck, and these shells are going to do a walloping on him. And now we're up to 33,000 damage, so an even better hit on that one, making the Pommern's game, well, let's just say he's having fun. As you saw, there was a Khabarovsk that was also there. However, everybody goes dark. I'm still lit briefly as we drop spot right there. And now it's back to the waiting game. A Kronstadt is moving around the corner, so that's something to keep in mind. The Khabarovsk also leaks around to take some free shots at me. I try to take one at him, but he's probably running propulsion mod as he's able to duck back behind that. Although we do get 2 hits on him, it's minor damage. However, we have the cap. Briefly, and as I say that, it starts getting flipped, which is not the Khabarovsk, and it's definitely not the Pommern. So there is another destroyer that is out here, which is not ideal. Having to deal with 1 destroyer is bad enough. When you're a battleship player, having to deal with 2 in the same area is not ideal. The Kronstadt starts coming around, and as we're just about to get our guns on target, he disappears. And the Pommern and the Khabarovsk don't want to come out and play. So there's relatively 4 ships basically on this side. The Pommern, the Cobb, an unknown destroyer in Alpha that is quickly taking it over. The Shimakaze does a good job of finishing the Pommern, but I need him to start spotting a little bit better. And I've been so decisive at this point as to who I want to shoot that I finally decide, nope, I'm going to commit. I'm going to keep my guns right here. If the Kronstadt shows back up, I'm going to make him pay. And that's exactly what happens as he, boom, pops up right there. And he's going to be flat broadside as he's not going to see these shots coming in. And this is this looks very good. And I could have swore that was a deletion, but I'll take a Kronstadt half off. And yeah, so that's half his health gone. It belongs to me. As we get our first Citadel and bring ourselves up to 73,000 damage. Only 2 stacks to our purple. Haven't taken any ships out yet to be able to start getting extra damage, but that's okay. The gearing finally shows himself as it's a Khabarovsk and a gearing versus a Shimakaze is not a good fight for our Shimakaze because he's not a gunboat and both these guys can gun him down with ease. However, we do have a little bit of support also just off my right-hand side. We have a battleship and a cruiser, I believe, that is making their way into Alpha to go ahead and take that over. So that is very ideal. Unfortunately, all of the ships go unspotted. The one thing about the gearing, as we talked about in the last clip, they have long-range torpedoes. And because of where I was when I spotted the gearing initially, he probably had launched torps in my direction, which is another reason why I wanted to relocate myself. Because they can kind of sneak up on you. And right when you least expect them, they show up and there's not much you can do to dodge them. They are slow, but unknown. And speaking of those torpedoes, unfortunately, the Shimakaze went right in the line of where I originally was, and I believe those torpedoes that were meant for me accidentally took out the Shimakaze, which is not good, because now we've pretty much lost our spotting on Alpha, and although we have gotten it back, I'm going to need to rely on the Pommern and the Alaska to take on both destroyers. So not an ideal scenario, but we're down in ships, we're up in caps, but we desperately need to start turning the tide and taking out more ships. And that's when we notice our friend the Kronstadt from earlier. And apparently he's healed a little bit of that health back, as he's pretty much right back to half. But we're going to wait until we can get our turrets turned all the way around. And then we're going to send another message to him that apparently he didn't get the point earlier. We can do damage. And so as he is not fully broadside, but enough in my opinion, we take a shot at him. We do end up losing another ship, so we really need these to connect. And they do a really good chunk of damage, giving us our third purple stack, and now we're over 94,000 damage, slightly. And the Kronstadt's left to about a quarter of his health. So now, as Charlie is being flipped by the red team, my thought process is pretty simple. I need to get into Bravo and start contesting it and flipping it. There's really nothing I can do to help on Alpha side anymore. I'm having to rely on my teammates, which is just a part of this game, unfortunately. Sometimes you're on the better end of that, and sometimes you're not. But as we're going in here, a couple of ships get taken down on both sides, leaving it as a 3v5. And just as we say that, the other destroyer goes down, so now it's a 3v4. They are still flipping Charlie, so it is even more vital that I get onto Bravo and start trying to change it. And as I say that, now it's an even game. 3 ships via 3 ships. However, the remaining destroyer is, you guessed it, a Shimakaze. So that's not ideal. The Montana out there is relatively weak and low, and the Napoli is also way out there, although I'm not quite sure of his health situation at the moment. And that is when I decide to switch to HE, because I have a feeling that the only ship that I'm going to be potentially facing in here is a Shimakaze, and I do not want to get blindsided. So there's the Napoli, and he has a little bit over half his health points, so that's good information to have. So I am just hoping to take this cap, and I'm also trying to expose myself ever so slightly so that the Shimakaze decides to get stupid and shoot at me. If he wants to reset me, fine. I'd rather take him off the board than necessarily only cap and leave him alive. So there we get spotted, and then almost immediately after we get spotted, we go unspotted. So at this point, I'm trying to guess which channel he's coming from, and I thought initially it might be right off my right-hand side, starboard side, but he is actually more towards my bow, as he's crossing that island from right to left, and so that small little gap, that's where he showed up. So now I know exactly where he is. Using kind of deductive reasoning, I know that he's right in front of me, which means I also know that torpedoes are on their way, and I'm thinking he's wise enough to not get spotted. So although I did have HE loaded as we set the Montana on fire with them, I quickly switched back to AP because the Montana is just flat broadside. Don't want to get stuck on the rock. That's why I'm kind of checking my position, as we unfortunately lose another ship. So now it is a 3v2, making it even more vital to take this Montana out, as the Shimakaze is now in the cap. He decides to start moving forward, and I'm hoping that these shells get there before he gets up to speed, because if I miss this may be game over. However, we connect, getting a Citadel from a very long way away and giving us a stack to our damage. However, we are losing the precious Bravo cap that we just took, and the Shimakaze, I know that torpedoes are in the water. It's just a matter of where are they and can I dodge them. So I am trying to stay bow in, knowing I'm probably not going to see him. And as they start coming in, initially I thought I might be able to dodge them, but it looks like I'm going to take 2. So now I'm just hoping for no flood, which unfortunately I do, so I have to take it out. But as you can see, he has a third set that he also launched against us. The Alaska, now I'm praying he has the ability to take out the Shimakaze, as we're forced to back up to dodge these torpedoes. Thankfully, we missed them, but now I'm desperately trying to go forward. As the Shimakaze is making that turn, I thought I might be able to get my front turrets around this corner and get a cheeky shot and take him off the board. He is committing all the way around there, and there he is. Although I have the mountain icon, it says I can't hit him. I take the shot anyway, and unfortunately, the mountain icon was correct, and none of my shells passed through, leaving him alive and now unspotted. I was hoping that the Alaska might have a radar left over, which is why I have my plane pop to give any type of potential spotting that I might be able to get. Thankfully, he got off Bravo Cap before he was able to flip it, so that is still in our favor, giving us the points lead, and now we just need to survive. And realizing that fact, this was where I kind of make a little bit of a mistake. Pushing in to a Shimakaze that I can't see only exposes me to more trouble. Yes, if the Alaska had his radar, then I would have had an opportunity to shoot at this Shimakaze. However, the better play here, given the score and the amount of time remaining, is to just simply survive. So now I am desperately trying to back up, realizing my mistake. However, the torpedoes are already in the water, as they should have been. Thankfully, RNG blesses me with no flood, but I do get another one, and I learned my lesson last time, as I know the last set of torpedoes are probably coming in the water. I hold on to my ability to damage con until then, and it gives me a little bit more time to potentially prevent any torpedoes that might have hit me for a third set. Speaking of that third set, here they come in, and I'm hoping if they're going to hit before this second goes off, and they do right before my damage con goes on cooldown. So that was a awesome play. I most certainly would have been flooding if it would have gone just half a second longer, or if I had done it a half a second sooner. But now it's just academic. We win because we simply survive. No, it wasn't flashy, it wasn't fantastic, and I didn't get any real medals. But I did come on the top of my team in this game. I played a really good game last time, and that's all she wrote. Sometimes it's better to just simply win than to try and be flashy while doing it. I can't thank everyone enough for being here, for supporting me through this series, for supporting me thus far since I've been on this journey. Thank you so very much. I enjoyed this. The Montana, although is not the most powerful ship, it's more situational than anything, wasn't bad. So thank you again, captains. Like, share, subscribe, comment. We are close to 200 subs, so I would love your sub if you enjoy this content. And I will see you in the next series, which I'm not sure what we're going to do yet, but stick around. This is the USS Endeavor, signing off.